Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Have you ever found yourself in a moment that, well, on paper, should be peak happiness? Maybe a long sought promotion, or the start of a new relationship, maybe finally getting that thing you've always wanted, only to feel this persistent underlying current of dissatisfaction, or even just a quiet sorrow. It's a surprisingly common human experience, isn't it? Our source material puts it beautifully, noting this universal condition. Everywhere you look, people are gripped by sorrow. So today we're embarking on a really profound exploration into the timeless teachings of Rumi, the 13th century Persian poet and Sufi mystic. His insights into, well, us, the human condition, are just as relevant today as they were centuries ago. Our focus is going to be on his wisdom related to the elephant in the dark from book 3 of the Masnavi. And our mission really is to understand Rumi's ancient diagnosis of this pervasive human suffering and, maybe more importantly, to uncover the path he illuminates towards a kind of joy that resonates far deeper than any fleeting external achievement.
Yeah, and what's truly captivating about Rumi is how he pinpointed this core human dilemma centuries ago, and it still resonates so powerfully with our modern struggles. He guides us to look beyond just the immediate circumstances of our lives and instead turn inward to an internal reality that honestly often goes completely unacknowledged. We'll delve into what he calls the mental self, or in the original, manizeni, and try to understand why he sees it as the primary source of our unease. Then we'll contrast it with a completely different kind of nourishment, the food of the heart, or gazi galpa.
That's a powerful distinction right from the start. The idea that our suffering stems not from what happens to us, but from an internal mental self. I mean, that's quite counterintuitive for many of us, wouldn't you say? We're so
Yes.
conditioned to look outside for external culprits. So help us unpack this. What exactly is this mental self, and why, if it's internal, does Rumi view it as such a profound and pervasive problem?
That's precisely the pivot Rumi asks us to make. You see, the mental self isn't our true essence. It's a construct, really. An identity we've meticulously built in our minds based on our experiences, our beliefs, all the societal conditioning. Rumi teaches, quite starkly actually, that to be in the mental self is equivalent to suffering. Now, we might attribute our pains to, say, a lost job or a broken relationship or some unfulfilled desire. But Rumi insists the root reason is internal. Within this mental self, we are fundamentally separated from our true essence, what he often refers to as the beloved, or yer. This beloved represents, the divine presence within us, the source of unconditional love, our innermost unconditioned self. So it's not just about bad things happening, it's about our primary mode of existence if we're anchored in this mental self. It's a separation from who we truly are. And that separation, well, it inevitably manifests as suffering.
Right. It sounds like a fundamental misdirection then. And the source uses such a vivid analogy to explain this. The suckling child. Can you elaborate on how Rumi uses that image? I'm curious how a child's early dependence illustrates our misguided attachment to this mental self.
Well, it's a brilliant analogy, and maybe a bit provocative. Rumi suggests we were meant to move beyond this suckling child phase where we're completely dependent on the mental self fairly quickly. He compares it to a child who should naturally transition from milk to solid food around, what, 2 or 3 years old? But imagine, he says, if that child insisted on consuming only milk for 30 or 40 years. That prolonged suckling on the mental self, Rumi warns, leads to a kind of spiritual sickness and a diminished life, just as a child would become physically ill. The mental self was really designed for a brief period, perhaps the first year or two of life maybe, to help us navigate the material world, to distinguish good and bad, recognize dangers. It's a foundational tool, sure, but it wasn't meant to be our lifelong operating system. Yet we've stayed there far too long. Think about it, we instinctively refer to heartfelt love or deep intuition as coming from the heart, right? Not the mind. Rumi sees that as a remnant of a deeper knowing we've kind of suppressed.
Okay, so if we're suckling on the mental self, what exactly are these foods we're consuming, the things that are keeping us stuck in this prolonged childhood? What does Rumi say we're feeding ourselves when we remain trapped there?
Well, these foods are all the ingrained patterns and reactions of the mental self. Just think about it in your own life. Resistance to what is, judgment of others, of ourselves, condemnation, that relentless attempt to control or change situations and people around us. It's also things like cold-heartedness, the constant need to seek attention or validation from others, getting drawn into conflict, persistent anger, deep-seated resentment, holding on to grudges. For example, when someone says, I just can't let go of what they did, that's a classic example, isn't it? Consuming the food of a grudge, allowing the mental self to just continually replay and reinforce that pain. Which raises a really important question for all of us. Have you ever observed yourself consuming these suckling foods from the mental self in your daily life? Our source even mentions a contemporary oncology professor pointing out that the main causes of cancer today are often linked to prolonged grudges, chronic stress, and unresolved anger. It just shows how these ancient teachings really resonate with modern understandings of holistic health, of well-being. It's not just spiritual illness that can manifest physically, too.
Wow. That's a stark connection. It makes the stakes incredibly clear. So, if this mental self is the source of suffering and its foods are so detrimental, what is the alternative? Rumi talks about the food of the heart, gaza-i galbha. How do we actually access this? What does it promise us?
Right. To really grasp the food of the heart, Rumi gives us another powerful image, a luminous sphere, or gululiye nurani. Imagine your authentic true self as this radiant sphere of pure light. But, Rumi says, after childhood, typically around the late teens, maybe early 20s, we start to cover this brilliant light, layer by layer, year after year, with what he calls clay, or gel. These layers of clay are our mental identifications, ham hoviat shodagiha. These are all the statements we make to ourselves and the world. I am this marriage, I am defined by my money, I am my job title, I am my successes. And as these layers thicken, our inner light becomes completely obscured, hidden, even from ourselves sometimes.
So, our lives, they're often punctuated by incredibly difficult, sometimes shattering events. The source mentions a spouse cheating after 40 years, leaving someone feeling utterly broken. Are these painful experiences just random misfortunes, or do they serve a deeper, almost purposeful function within Rumi's framework, maybe to reveal this luminous core?
That's a really insightful question. Because Rumi would say these difficult life events, they aren't inherently good or bad. Their purpose is far more profound. He describes them as being designed by a universal law of food, kwanarigasa. Think of it like a spiritual principle, almost like a natural law of karma or spiritual evolution, that brings us precisely the experiences we need for our growth, their design. It's to break these layers of clay, covering our luminous core. So when you say, my heart broke, it's not your true luminous heart that's breaking, it's the layers of your mental self, your cherished identifications, those are cracking apart, the intense pain you feel. That's the pain of these mental constructs, these Aina statements, shattering. And here's the key. When these cracks appear, a little bit of that inner light, your true essence, it shines through. This light, this emerging essence, that is the food of the heart, the very nourishment you need to awaken.
That completely reframes struggle, doesn't it, in such a powerful way? So when these breakages happen, when these painful cracks appear in our mental self, what exactly is Rumi's counsel? What should our response be to consciously access this food of the heart instead of, instinctively trying to just patch up the cracks?
The absolute key, Rumi insists, is surrender and acceptance. Taslim Vareza. And this means an unconditional acceptance of the present moment, whatever it holds, before the mind rushes in to judge it, before it tries to label it good or bad or resist it. It's about letting go of the mental self's immediate reaction, the urge to control, to fix, to change the situation. Don't try to immediately patch up the cracks with more clay. For instance, don't just jump into replacing a lost relationship or seeking external distractions without allowing for that internal transformation. Allow the cracks to remain. Let them breathe. That empty space that opens within you after a genuine act of surrender, that is the food of the heart. When you accept, when you're content with what is, something deeper within your identifications breaks, and the pain you feel is the breaking of these egoic eyes. This light that comes from the broken eyes, this is your main nourishment. It's the energy for your true self to actually emerge.
It sounds incredibly liberating, but I imagine also intensely challenging. What does this deep surrender truly feel like? And what's the ultimate outcome for us, for the listener, beyond just, enduring the pain?
It's a profound shift, really. When you surrender without any transactional expectations, you're not doing it to get a good feeling or to manifest more money, but purely as an act of service to the beloved, to your true self. You'll find this remarkable stability in your inner state. There's a renewed strength, a high, clear energy that arises, what our source describes as a real good feeling. But it's not a fleeting happiness tied to external things. It's more like an unshakable inner peace. And as a result, that open state remains and more light emerges from within you. It's a process of truly becoming alive, of being ensouled, moving from merely existing to genuinely living from your deepest core.
Okay, so we've navigated the trap of the mental self and understood this liberating path of surrender. But how do we prepare ourselves for a deeper, more consistent experience of this food of the heart and the unveiled light, the Nordi Bihub that Rumi describes? Our source consistently highlights the critical importance of wisdom, Nori Hekmet.
Exactly. Wisdom is the vital sustenance for this journey. Eating wisdom, as Rumi puts it, means consciously consuming the profound, timeless teachings. Teachings of prophets, saints, great masters like Rumi himself. It's about turning away from the fleeting distractions, the noise of popular opinion or the superficial world, and instead nourishing ourselves with deep truths. This wisdom, when you genuinely absorb it, it gradually influences us from within. It helps us understand the deeper mysteries and knowledge of this world, and importantly of ourselves. Now, it's not an instant revelation. Rumi's clear on that. We can't bear the full unveiled light all at once, just like our eyes need distance from the sun's full brilliance, right? So the veil, for a time, actually serves a protective purpose. It allows us to grow capable of receiving more light gradually.
That makes sense, a gradual unveiling. So as we consume this wisdom, what is the single most crucial secret that it ultimately reveals? What's the ultimate breakthrough that truly ends the suffering Rumi started talking about?
This is where the wisdom becomes profoundly simple, yet absolutely revolutionary. One of the most profound secrets, which is also the most direct, is the deep realization that God is code of untasked. When this truth isn't just intellectually known, but genuinely understood and felt deep within your being, it truly ends all suffering. It quite literally brings paradise into one's life. Why? Because when God is truly lands within you, the need for control, the fear of loss, the incessant judgment of what if or if only, all those constructs of the mental self, they just start to dissolve. You realize there's a larger benevolent order, a presence underpinning everything. Your individual ego's struggles begin to seem less significant, less binding. It's the moment the mental layers fall away and all the secrets of life become clear. Because, as the source states, everything is evident, we just can't see it through our self-imposed veils.
Wow. So in essence, then, the mental self is the only barrier, the only thing obscuring this self-evident truth.
Precisely, yes. It's beautifully put in a wisdom quote attributed to the great Persian poet Hafiz, also mentioned in our source. Between the lover and the beloved, there is no veil. You are your own veil, Hafiz, step aside. These teachings, when you absorb them consistently, they gradually reveal that we are the obstacle. Our mental self, with its constant chatter, its identifications, it needs to learn to step aside.
Okay. So for our listeners who feel ready, who want to commit to this journey, what are the practical, actionable steps, things they can start integrating into their lives today to truly eat this wisdom and prepare for that unveiled light?
There are a few key practices Rumi really emphasizes. First, cultivate consistent presence, awareness. Whenever your mind tries to pull you into the past with regrets or the future with anxieties, gently, without judging yourself, just bring it back to the now. Be patiently observant of your inner state. Second, and this is crucial, persistently, consistently, and with unwavering commitment, engage with these teachings. Listen to them repeatedly. Reflect on them. Don't focus on achieving a specific material result like, getting more money or external success. Just listen with an open heart. Rumi warns that what he calls the darkness, or the ego, sometimes he personifies it as Satan, it will try every trick to distract you from these teachings. It will offer excuses like sudden sleepiness or urgent tasks popping up, or maybe the unexpected call of a long-lost friend right when you plan to listen or reflect. Recognize these as attempts to keep you from the unveiled light, and gently but firmly, just return to your practice.
What an incredible vision Rumi offers. What's the ultimate transformation, the final picture he paints for those who commit to this journey of consistently eating wisdom?
Rumi says that by consistently nourishing yourself with this wisdom, you will gradually become capable of receiving the full unveiled light without being overwhelmed. You'll transform into someone who can, as he puts it, travel like stars. In the galaxies, not literally, of course, but in your consciousness, in your understanding, you'll experience genuine intuition, divine inspirations. Your feet will be firmly on the ground, managing daily life, yet your wings will be soaring in the sky, connected to something much larger. You'll realize you are a complete moon Kumari Kamal, reflecting the light of the beloved perfectly, rather than merely chasing after the fleeting clouds of external desires. As Rumi observes, man is a strange creature, given 2 wings to fly, but does not let go of the feet that walk on the ground. This journey is about finally realizing and, using those wings.
What a truly, truly illuminating deep dive into Rumi's profound message. We've explored how our deep attachment to the mental self acts as this fundamental barrier, causing ongoing suffering like that child stubbornly refusing to move beyond milk. We've learned that the true food of the heart isn't found by avoiding life's challenges, but through radical surrender, allowing the painful cracks of those challenges to reveal the inner light we've covered with all those layers of mental identification. And we've seen how consuming wisdom, the timeless teachings of the masters, gradually prepares us to receive the unveiled light and live a life where, yes, our feet are on the ground, but our wings are forever in the sky.
It really is a profound call, isn't it? A call to humility and unwavering commitment, to acknowledge and consciously choose to stop clinging to the childhood of the mental self. It's about embracing the deeper nourishment that Rumi insists is always freely available right within us. The true courageous work is to accept that living perpetually in this mental self is, in Rumi's view, a kind of self-imposed hell. And then to consciously place ourselves under the constant, gentle light of wisdom.
So, as you reflect on this deep dive, maybe consider this provocative thought. In your own life right now, what specific childhood food of the mental self, perhaps a persistent judgment, maybe a stubborn resistance to what is, or an insistent desire for control, might you be clinging to today? Something that could be preventing you from tasting the food of the heart that Rumi